Welcome to Church is Canceled. I'm your co-host, Shret, and I'm joined by Big Money Hybels, my co-host this week. Big Money Hybels, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. You know, before we kick off this episode, I wanted to just talk to you about something a little interesting.
What's that?
How do you feel about rebranding? Huh?
Oh, God damn it.
Okay. Just kidding.
Get out of here.
All right. We'll talk about that off air. Today's episode, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's a scandal week, right? You know,
Scandal. We love a good scandal.
We love a good
Church
scandal.
Is Canceled.
That's right. I mean, it's kind of the entire basis of this podcast.
Yeah.
This episode is the scandal part is kind of light, wouldn't you say?
It's going to not take very much time to cover the scandal part.
Yeah. I think we'll do it in under a minute. So like it can come out as a short. So, so this week we're going to, obviously I always try to give away the subject with my, name of Big Money Hybels. We're going to be talking about Bill Hybels and Willow Creek Church.
Yeah. Before we do that, I wanted to do our segment as we always do in the very beginning, the church cliche of the week.
Knock my socks off.
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
This week's church
knock my dick out of the park.
This week's church cliche happens after that final worship song is wrapping up.
Okay.
The keyboard is still going. It's always a keyboard.
Yeah, of course.
It's one of the double-decker keyboards too.
Yes.
I don't know why, because they can only play one deck I guess they can play two at a time, but it's a double-decker keyboard.
If you have the Spirit of God in you, you can play both.
All things are possible through Christ who strengthens me.
That's correct.
Even my double-decker keyboard.
That's
right. So the double-decker keyboard is still going softly in the background as the pastor says that he wants to continue the worship. He says, I want to continue our worship to go
by reading
into
the scripture.
No.
Okay.
More importantly, we're going to worship by giving. Now, buckets are going to be passed around. You can also just scan the QR code on the back of your sermon notes, which are fill in the blank because we don't want you to have to think too hard.
Nope.
Or you could just go to generically named evangelicalchurch.com and you can give online. You just have to click donate. Let's continue our worship by giving, because giving is also worship. God doesn't just want you to sing songs. He wants you to give money to me, your pastor, who may or may not have anything to do with God in general. So let's continue our worship by giving me what's in your pockets. Thank you.
That is a church cliche, and I will say for the first time ever, I'm just going to say, I think generosity is part of being a Christian. Now, what you're saying here is, there's a fair criticism here that does generosity always look like giving money to your church, or is it sometimes giving the leftovers of your Jimmy John's to a homeless?
No. Leftovers? Were your bite marks in the sandwich and you ate half of it and you're going to give it to him?
Hey, he's a homeless. What are we like? What does he have is he like, is this Michelin starred? Come on.
I remember one time when we lived in Austin, you had an idea to give out bags to the homeless. Really generous, Christ-like idea. And in these bags was going to be, some granola bars, some water, some cards with directions and phone numbers for homeless shelters and places you could go to get things you'd need, and tiny little bottles of vodka, just to cut out the middleman and just give them what they're going to go for anyways. It's just right there in the bag.
Yeah, I think that right now, I think it might be tiny little bags of fentanyl. But I'm just saying, like, that might be what we have to give to the homeless. But no, like, do you remember, like, this is off topic, but when we had planted that church and we would there was a lot of homeless people in Austin, right where we were.
Yeah.
where we were
But
renting.
you gotta love the homeless in Austin. Like they work for it.
They do.
There was a one guy who played movie trivia with us.
Right. Hey,
That guy
that
was
was
fun.
right next to our apartment. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
They worked for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The homeless here where I am, they don't even have signs. They just like wave at you and or like feed me. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
You gotta work for it.
No, like I remember like there was a homeless guy just camped out on the front lawn of the school that we met at for church.
Yeah.
And so you and I rode to church together. I dropped you off and I said, I'm going to go down to the 7-Eleven and grab this guy's sandwich. So I grabbed him whatever sandwiches, and the guy's like, well, actually, these are like from yesterday, so you can just take them. I was like, okay. I took one for myself. And then I gave them to the homeless that was just camped out on the lawn of this school. And he's like, no, thanks. I was like, no, thanks. Bro, like, Lord, give me the audacity of this guy. Like, just,
I no joke. I stopped. I used to keep water and granola bars and snacks and stuff in my car to give to
you were
homeless.
A hippie, yeah.
I was living in Memphis still doing this. I stopped doing it because I legitimately had a guy. He was going from car to car in the Starbucks line asking for food. And he got up to my car and he said, hey, man, I'm hungry. Can you help me out? I said, yeah, here you go. I got these snacks. I got granola bars, got water. And I handed it to him. And he said, I'm good. And I said, I called him out. I was like, you just said you were hungry. You're not hungry? He's like, you eat it. And walked away. And I was like, oh, my God, this guy just ruined my generosity for all homeless people from this point forward.
I think that, right. I remember you and I were trying to start an app. And so I went and registered with one of our competitors, or would have been one of the competitors for this app. And I had to go through a training process. And throughout the training process, I was driving my car. And like there's a trainer and 3 other people training with me. And there's a homeless guy, so I just reached out and gave him the change. And the guy behind, like some random stranger I never met, in the back of the car goes, "Don't encourage them." I was like, "Oh, come on, man, have some compassion." And then I got a little older, and I was like, "He's right. Don't encourage him." But so
we got off on that we went down that rabbit's bum hole by talking about how generosity is something we should do.
Right.
That we talked about how we don't do it
right
anymore.
But so this episode, like I said, is about Bill Hybels. So do you just want to give us a brief primer about his basically the allegations that led to his quitting early of a job he was leaving anyway?
What's a primer? Is that a primer? Is that a British for a primer? Is that
probably? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Bill, you would just want me to go over the allegations, not his whole who he was and whatever.
Yeah. Because let's just get the scandal part of this scandal episode out of the way.
The scandal is short. Bill Hybels, pastor of a mega church. We'll get into who he was in a moment. The scandalous part is that he was accused. He got #MeToo'd. And
if you're an elder millennial like myself,
I was waiting for this. Thank you.
Okay,
Proceed.
Yeah, it's a pound me too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
okay. I was waiting for that. You were drinking your Red Bull.
Yeah,
I was waiting for the pound me too joke.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he got pounded
me too, and I was a little confused. Was it 1 or 2 women came forward? At least his executive assistant. Primarily his executive assistant came forward and said that there was sexual misconduct or whatever it was, ranging from she was subjected to unwanted shoulder massages, all the way to inappropriate touching, fondling. She was exposed to pornography that he was apparently showing her and that she had to engage. She didn't say she was forced to engage in oral sex. She just said she was subjected to it, which is a little unclear.
Yeah,
you were subjected to it, but I don't know if consent was given or not, or what was there. But anyways, things that Bill Hybels should not have been doing with his executive assistant. So these allegations came out, and he did what? He denied them. He said, I have never had sexual relations with that woman.
Yeah. Oddly enough, Bill Hybels had at one point in time had Bill Clinton on one of his, so one of his global leadership summits.
You learn from the best.
Yeah. Did you know, this is an interesting fact. You probably read the book Case for Christ by Lee Strobel.
I did, yeah. I went to an event where Lee Strobel spoke.
Okay. Lee Strobel was, so I never read the book because I'm not a nerd, and I'm not like, I watched the movie though, and in the movie Lee Strobel goes to a church. That church is Willow Creek, founded by Bill Hybels. It was actually founded by, I desperately searched for this video that I saw that inspired this episode and couldn't find it, where this guy was just breaking down how a lot of churches do this, including Willow Creek, where they have this founding story, and the founding myth gets pruned over time, and it gets more interesting and more compelling. And Bill Hybels is often credited as the sole founder of Willow Creek. Willow Creek, by the way, one of the largest churches in the country. I think it's bigger than Osteen in terms of their seating capacity. They're huge, right?
Yeah.
What I never understood was they never get the cultural pushback that Osteen gets, which I don't think that Osteen really deserves what he gets.
No, I don't either.
So he had $800,000 missing in a bathroom of his church in the Wolf. Doesn't that happen to everybody with lots of money? That happens to me all the time. But I wonder, so Hybels, starts his church in 1975, Willow Creek. It becomes a breakout success. And in 2020, he had already said, I think sometime he had planned, they had already put together an executive search committee, and that he was leaving at the end of 2020. That would be.
Yeah, the allegations came out in 2019.
Yeah. And so I think somewhere in the beginning of 2020, in the midst of everything that was happening, I'm sure that church wasn't meeting. So he's just kind of he just took a leave, and he left earlier than so this isn't a scandal where something breaks and the pastor loses the church. He left 6 months before he was going to leave, when the place was probably not meeting to begin with, right? But the reason I thought this was an interesting topic to discuss, or scandal to discuss today, was, in many ways, the church that he built became the model for building a church and starting a church in the United States of America.
We heard about him. I don't know if we talked about it in our podcast, Mars Hill, one of our first scandals we did. But if you go listen to the Christianity Today podcast about the rise and fall of Mars Hill, Hybels I think there's some audio of Hybels in there talking about how he got started.
Yes.
Selling tomatoes door to door, starting this youth group, trying to reach out to people. This is just to give you some background of.
Maybe that's where I heard that clip of somebody talking about how the founding mythology of the church gets started.
Yeah.
And how that story.
It turned out that wasn't necessarily true, that he was going door to door selling tomatoes. It just.
Well, yeah, and then
this myth gets turned into legend. Yeah.
And that legend builds this, because there's a church that I know of that's the guy just took all his credit cards, and I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm just saying that's the story. Is he took all of his credit cards and he maxed them out, and he spent all $70,000 buying audio equipment and video, and he started a church, and it blew up into this huge thing. I'm not saying it's not true, but it makes me call into question how many of these stories that we see about mega churches end up being true. And part of my other beef as a marketing individual is he's the one who popularized these undiscernible, stupid names.
Oh my God.
Oh, hold on.
Willow Creek.
Right. And he popularized, I have no problem with First Baptist because they're the first one. Okay. Or Fifth Avenue Presbyterian because they're on Fifth Avenue. It's very straightforward.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Where do you go to church? Willow Creek. Is that a golf course? Is that a retirement community? Is that a commercial multifamily complex? What is this place? It doesn't. And he created, and part of the branding and part of the name was that it isn't we're not in your face. We're seeker sensitive.
Right. That was the whole deal. He started this seeker-friendly model. of whatever it takes to get butts in the seat. We're going to be as relevant as possible. What he did was really, it was truly innovative.
Right. Credit
He
where it's
used,
due.
yeah, a different kind of, more contemporary music, stuff that it would sound like you would hear on the radio. The worship band was playing it. Stuff to appeal to young people, talking, referencing pop culture in your sermon, not having messages that are like deeply exegeting scripture and trying to uncover what it means and go deeper in your faith. He just wanted to get people there and make them feel like they had a place where they could belong.
Yeah. And, as much as we may criticize this, and even in this episode, I think there's something there. There is something to what he pioneered. Now, he created this other thing called Global Leadership Summit in 1995 or 6. I think that's when he had Bill Clinton on, and it really it was talking about leadership, and he brought business leaders in, and he even had the CEO of GE, who definitely didn't do anything wrong or never had an accounting scandal ever in his life. But Hybels, portrayed himself more as a businessman and as an entrepreneur more than a man of the cloth, right? And he was kind of the first guy who was like, yeah, I'm going to wear jeans on stage with a button down, but it's untucked and my sleeves are rolled up like a politician. And the more and more scandals that you and I talk about, the more my heart softens for these people, these, the guys who perpetuate these scandals or create them. And listen, I think it's a little easier for me because I'm not someone who carries around any church hurt, because I was raised in a non-denominational movement without pastors. So I already kind of was skeptical. Like that the Plymouth Brethren movement's a little more skeptical of a single leader for reasons that have now become obvious. And, but he portrayed himself more as a businessman. And people say, there's a saying that DC is just Hollywood for ugly people. Everything, but everything that Hollywood offers a person, like admiration, popularity, acceptance, that's what DC is. And in so many ways, planting a future megachurch is the exact same thing for people who are like, I don't have enough skill to be a politician. I'm not good enough. I'm not good looking enough, to be in Hollywood. I can start a church and people.
I'm well spoken. Yeah, people like me. I'm influential.
Right, and I'm occasionally I can tell a joke, and for a lot of lovely people who love Jesus, I think they go, okay, I'm really gonna. I think they're in their head, they're like a Ponzi scheme guy, right? They're like, okay, if I just get enough butts in the seats, we at some point down the road, I'm going to figure out how to give everybody their money back, right? And at some point, most of these guys end up like Bernie Madoff, just going, I guess, it's, it is what it is. I guess I just run a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. So.
I think now may be a good time to do our ad.
Okay. Well, as you guys know, we're just getting started with this new year, 2023. Yes.
So new year, new sponsor.
New year, new sponsor. New year, new you. Now,
new you.
I'm sure you've seen all of these different apps and different products and services to help you be accountable. And the problem with most of them is they try to use encouragement, right? They try, you can do it, believe in yourself. But this new product, okay, and it's not just it's not just an app, it's a community, okay. It gamifies your shame.
My shame.
That's right. Well, it's called POS, Power of Shame. Now, the power of your own shame helps propel you to achieve greatness by forcing you to state goals, forcing you to give a timeline for those goals. And if you don't achieve those goals, two things happen. You're publicly shamed on the app.
Okay.
Your mega church is notified. You are forced, and if you can't sing, they force you to do a worship song. They force you to count the money at the end and go, see, this all could have been yours. but you didn't. It's not yours. You could have made all of this money, but you didn't. And they shame you at the end of a service. And
Power of shame.
Yeah.
This could really help me. I make a New Year's resolution every year.
Okay.
And like every other idiot out there, I just can't stick to it. I stick to it for 3 weeks, and then I just can't, because probably I've never had the power of shame keep me going, to keep me accountable.
If you get to September of 2023 and you haven't hit your goals, okay, someone from the Power of Shame app comes and sleeps with your spouse.
Wow, what a do you have to pay extra for that, or is that just included in the normal monthly fee for the app?
Well, actually, the way it works is those who succeed at achieving their goals get a reward, and that reward is they sleep with your wife. So it's a bartering system, right? So the app gives out rewards, and those rewards are sometimes punishments for other people. So, yeah.
Wow,
right.
What a great sponsor. We're just blessed to have POS, the Power of Shame.
That's right.
Where can you find them, Danny, if you want to go sign up for the it's just an app on the right?
Well, so far right now it's online only. They're new year, new app. They're working on the actual phone application, but you can go to powerofshame.ai.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is kind of a hefty cost, but if you hit all of your marks, you get your money. You get most of your money back. You get about 70% of your money back.
Okay.
And with our coupon code church, you'll get an extra 5%. So if you hit all your marks, you get 75% of your money back. So first month is it's $1,000.
And you get to punish someone else who doesn't meet their marks, right?
Well, okay, listen. You can't look at it like a punishment. It's a reward for you. Yeah. Now, what the app does,
you get to hold someone accountable, basically, is what I'm saying.
That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
You get to be.
That makes up for the other 25% of my money that I lost.
That's correct. So, of course, you should, verify with your spouse and your spiritual leaders to make sure that this confines with your moral system. If it doesn't, that's your problem. But somebody's wife is in for a surprise, I'm pretty sure, in September of this year. But that's power of shame.ai. That's right. Coupon code church. You know what's crazy is if you get to December, they foreclose on your house. You have to add them. You have to add them as a creditor on your house. So
you got a lien in second position.
Yeah, now it's a lien in third, but they got a lien in third position, and but they let you keep your car. That's the cool thing, is they let you keep your car.
Thank God.
Because you have to live somewhere after your wife leaves with a guy that she met in September, and then you foreclose. Yeah, so it's wild, but Power of Shame, it really works.
Oh.
All right, we're gonna jump back into our episode now.
So we were talking, Danny, a little bit about how Bill Hybels started this model. Aside from hating the types of generic names he used to, inspired people to name their churches, he started this seeker-friendly model to reach out to people who normally would not like to come to church.
That's right.
I'd be interested to know what you think about that. I know that when I got more involved in church, I was in the Assemblies of God denomination. And being newer in church and hearing the message, feeling like the message of the gospel was like, hey, we have a good thing here. Let's make sure that other people can join in on this good thing. I once had a conversation with a youth pastor who was like, hey, why are so many of the sermons like teaching sermons? That's not no one who is coming from the outside. Because I was bringing my family. I'm bringing all sorts of people. I'm bringing gay people. I'm bringing people who are, selling their vaginas on the streets. I was bringing all these people, Danny.
Wait, I remember who you're talking about.
Now you know what I'm talking about.
Was that for sale, or was that? I thought that was a barter of goods. So
no. Well, no, sometimes.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm like, seeker friendly, kind of going to help out if you're going to reach those people. And instead they were teaching about how you shouldn't be gay and you shouldn't sell your snatch on the streets. And I thought, hey, we ought to get some more seeker friendly messages in here so these people they can come in. And the pastor's like, well, it doesn't really work that way. We've got to balance it out. And so in the beginning, I thought we should be seeker friendly all the time. I don't know that I think so much of that now. I think but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that any model of church is going to be perfect for everyone, So what are your thoughts? Do you think we should have more seeker friendly services? Yes, no, balance? What?
I think that, I think that, I think Sunday morning should always be seeker friendly. And here's why I say that. When people think of church, when do they think of going? Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, right? Now, I actually don't have a problem with creating Sunday. I actually think Sunday evening services are actually like a 6 p.m. It's actually cool.
I've gone to one of those, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that because I'm not a morning person. And I think that if you want people to attend church, what you need to do is knock down any barrier for them to get in the seat, right? So now I don't know their church in depth. I don't know Willow Creek in depth, but what I do know is, I know people who have gone there and consulted or worked or what have you as an outside person, and they haven't done a great from what I understand. So sorry, let me answer the question. I think on Sunday morning, it should always be seeker sensitive. And here's why. If you want that deeper teaching, there's 7 days in a week. And we're talking about, 1.5 hours, 1 day a week.
Yeah.
The other days of the week, I think we need to create a funnel for people in church.
Mm-hmm.
Starts with a seeker friendly message that you actually can apply something from that message in your day-to-day life. Now, I grew up in a church that was the opposite of seeker friendly. And every Sunday was this hour and a half deep teaching academic message. Now, if you ask me anything now as a more mature Christian, older guy now, I would love to hear some of that stuff. Like that to me would be more interesting. But when I'm 8, 9, 10, 15, whatever years old, don't care. And so I think that you have other days of the week. I think if you have this huge building and you're spending, tens of millions of dollars in the case of Willow Creek here, we're talking about the second largest theater in the country. Kodak Theater is the number one. Number two is 7,000 seats. Willow Creek. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, they have a food court. They have a gym. Okay. Now, I don't have a problem with any of that because I view the church as the hub of a community. And I believe that as the hub of a community, like if I'm going to go to the gym at Lifetime or Planet Fitness, which I'm not poor enough to go to Planet Fitness just yet. We'll see how this downturn goes. But or whatever, if I'm going to pay them, I might as well go to my church and be with my church friends and have a community. And if I'm going to go to McDonald's, I might as well go to the McDonald's inside of my church, right?
Yeah, there was a church in Memphis, and I would go there from time to time. I had a Muslim friend, and he always wanted to go hang out there because they had a coffee shop. He didn't even know. We had been there 2 or 3 times together, and I was like, this is a church, right? He's like, no, I had no fucking clue.
Okay. Well, don't have Muslim friends. That's the first lesson there. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, if you want to do outreach, you want to reach people who don't think the same way.
Yeah.
And there's a coffee shop. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. You're going to get people in the door who otherwise wouldn't be there who might say, hey, this place is pretty cool. Nobody has, kicked me out for looking the way I look or whatever. Right. Maybe I'll check it out one of these Sundays. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. So, I think that I have that mentality of like the point, my view is the point of church service on Sunday morning is not for the seasoned Christian. That you should attend, you should be there, and you may learn something, you may get something out of it. But if you're looking, and I believe this is a failure of the church to adequately train their parishioners, if you are going to church on Sunday morning expecting a spiritual experience that feeds you, I think you have a misplaced understanding of church. I don't view church as the place where you get spiritual growth. I view it as the hub of a community, and it should do a better job of serving people. There's no point of preaching to the choir; they're already on the team, right?
Yeah.
The choir needs other help. So
that's a lot of churches have gotten away from the model where it may be more seeker friendly on Sundays, but now they have groups, right? They got like small groups, life groups, whatever they call them. They're all they're all similar, right? That you can go to during the week for more of that deeper personal growth.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think that's the, I think if you're going to bother being a Christian, I think that, it should encompass everything that you do.
Well, I think that's if we look at what's a biblical model of the church. I think that's really difficult.
We're talking about Willow Creek. Don't bring the Bible into this, okay? I'm kidding.
Right, well, Willow Creek's certainly not a biblical model of the church. I mean, they didn't have these mega churches. Church wasn't held in the Colosseum. We didn't have everybody getting together in stadiums. We had people getting together in their homes. And there could be large groups of people, but still large is not in the thousands like we see today. And there wasn't professional grade bands and music performances and media, multimedia.
No, you're wrong.
You're wrong. No. It was
when Jesus fed the 5,000. How many people were there?
Okay, all right, thank you.
2,000 less than can fit in Willow Creek. Right?
All right, fair point.
Jesus did say you would do greater things than he did. We got seating capacity. No,
fair point. But yeah. I think it looks a little bit more maybe like small groups. That's maybe more of the original model of a church, is people gathering together in more tight-knit communities and sharing through the good and the bad of life together. So I think that's maybe more what it looks like. But I don't know. I could. You said, I were 5,000.
Yeah, you and I were part of a small group that didn't like us. At least the people whose home we met in were like, "Yeah, it's okay if you don't come back."
Well, that was more you than me.
That's probably true. That is true. It was more me. Happens all the time though. Wouldn't be the first time. Won't be the last. No. I remember I had I don't know if he was a professor or whatever at college, instructor, and he said he had done some consulting or something, I don't know what, for Willow Creek, and there was a church family that he stayed with, and the wife or the mother of the house sat him down, and they were having dinner, and she goes, I feel like I'll never live up to the 10 Commandments, and he goes, yeah, I know, and she's like, yeah, but then how do I know if I'm really saved? And he just, I can just imagine at that point he's putting his head down going, how long have you been going to Willow Creek? And she goes, 15 years.
Oh,
yeah. And so I think that the failure point is that there isn't a better or stricter enforcement of, and this, I know that it irritates you. I actually know somebody who left a church plant because they're like, they're always talking about going to the groups. I feel like if I go on Sunday, that should be enough. I'm like, enough for what? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where, I don't have a lot of deeper thoughts on that. I think that it's not a bad model.
Let's talk about the model of, you said something before of how the Plymouth Brethren were always skeptical of, we take this guy and we have this guy who, he's our guy. He's mm-hmm. He's our Bill Hybels.
Right.
He's our
conduit to heaven.
He's our Mars Hill. Yeah. Our what was it? His name again? Ari forgot. He's
Ari
affliction
Shafir.
T-shirt guy.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Mark Driscoll.
Mark Driscoll. We have this one guy who's super famous and encompasses everything we're about.
Yeah.
And we put him at the top and we put him on a pedestal.
Right.
And in this instance with Bill Hybels, is the same as with Mars Hill. everybody comes at the end and they look back, hindsight 2020, and they say, our board of elders didn't do a good enough job keeping this guy accountable. So
Yeah.
what do you think of that model? One of the articles you even put that you sent over to me to do research for this episode, the author was saying what happened with Bill Hybels is a case to bring back and reinforce denominationalism. And that's the solution to these scandals is denominations,
no,
boards of elders and accountability.
Well, all of that's good, right? And, a guy who criticized the Willow Creek model recently had his board of elders put him out for 3 months. It's the village church, Matt Chandler, for not, and he didn't even DM a lady a picture of his pee-pee. He didn't even do anything inappropriate. He just made a joke about the consumption of alcohol in a DM, and the board of elders put him out. And a few weeks ago, somewhere at the end of 2020, they brought him back, and he was like, "No, I'm grateful that the elders put me out for." This guy got a 3 month vacation. Of course, he's happy about it.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, I think the problem is we're expecting, like the reference I made earlier, that DC is just Hollywood for ugly people, and the mega churches are just DC and Hollywood for Christian people. And I still think if Bill Hybels says he believes in Jesus, I believe him. I'm not saying that he's not anything other than who he is, but I'm just saying we're putting too much pressure on these people to be anything other than human.
Right.
And we're placing an expectation on them of like, I know at a church that I used to go to, the pastor had I would say she was an attractive assistant, and they said, we're going to have to put you somewhere else in the church. Like, we have to find you a different job. And he got a dude. And I was like, well, that works, but also, I don't,
Yeah, this woman just got penalized for being attractive. Come on.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, and she's a beautiful lady, but we can't put an expectation on people to be anything other than human.
Right. And I don't know, what I see happening in all these scandals is then the entire board has to resign or apologize or something. We didn't keep them accountable enough. What can you really do to control someone's behavior like that? Like, if he wants to do inappropriate shoulder massages and, get a blowy under the desk in his office, how are you really going to stop that?
Well, like, for instance, if you're Ted Haggard and you're like, I'm going to get rid of my female assistant as to not tempt myself and replace her with a twink, you just go, wait, you just made the board of elders is going to be behind you. Your overseers are going to be behind you.
True.
Your church planting network and your denomination, everybody's going to support that decision. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to get caught with him in Mykonos wearing those really small bathing suits, like wearing speedos. Yeah. And in Mykonos, eating baklava off of each other. I'm just saying, but at the same time, my argument is, like, we should do everything that we can to prevent an act of impropriety. And if that means that we get rid of the pretty girl, and I think if it was a homely girl, I think everyone would have been okay with it. I think it would have been okay. But that it just wasn't that kind of church. It didn't attract a lot of uggos until recently, I think.
How about, like I said before, with the Ted Haggard one, if you're a pastor in this position where you're saying, hey, we can't do these things, we can't be guys who sleep with guys, we can't be leaders who get handies from our executive assistants. If you're a guy saying you can't do those things, how about when you start having a problem, you hold yourself accountable and you say to someone, hey, you know what, I'm going to need some time off, or I'm going to need to choose to move my own office away from her office. She can keep doing what she's doing and do her job, or maybe this job has just become too much for me. Maybe I need to look for something else to do. Why can't people, the problem I see with the church is we made it, like you said, we were expecting these people to be more than human. So they don't think that they can ask for help when they need to or step down when they should. There's probably too much money involved. That's enticing, is going to keep you I don't want to give that position up. That is what I think is the problem. There's too much pressure to be more than human, and there's too much money. There's too much status and celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, and there's one problem we're not going to cure. Human beings are status-seeking animals. We want status. And the way you got status in the 90s was lots of money. The way you get status now is having the right socio-political ideas. And so I just think that, that's just humanity. So yeah, like the more and more we do these, these scandal episodes, the more and more I go, buddy, like there's at least, 2 weeks ago we had Ravi Zacharias. At least he bought his own massage parlors, and at least he got to die before everything went down like for him. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that you're right in saying that like we can't put too much pressure on these. You can't expect him to be anything other than a horny dude. It doesn't matter how old he is. The guy's close. I think he's getting close to 70. Like, even if his stuff doesn't work the same way it did before, you can't placing the expectation on him be anything other than a man is like when I hear people say stuff like, well, he should just control himself. And I've made this comparison more than once on this podcast, which is that is the same thing as saying, well, he should just pray away his gay. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Like
more or less.
Yeah. But that's
what I'm saying. I'm saying if he knows, he knows ahead of time. It's not like all of a sudden, he just got his hand down his assistant's shirt. Yeah. He's been thinking about it for a while and probably had this plan that he came up with to do it. We need to give our leaders an outlet. We need to give them an out if they're having a tough time, whether it's that or drugs. Or, I'm starting to think that maybe I should take some of this money and move it over here to my personal accounts.
Right.
We need to be able for them to step down on their own and not have to face shame, sort of a no questions asked where we can avoid this. But we don't. They have to be perfect the whole time. And they do it up until the point where they're not, and everyone finds out in some tragic way, and someone gets hurt and multiple people get hurt. And because there was no escape valve. There was no emergency exit that they could just bow out of.
Yeah. And, in the case of like money laundering or taking money or embezzlement, what you really need to do is you need to set up your own private 501c3 before you start the church, and the church compensates the 501c3 that's a international ministry.
Right.
And that way, from the beginning, you already set yourself up to be above board because because you're not
Which is why you should give to the Church's Canceled International Ministries Outreach Program. It's our new nonprofit that we've started.
Right. Yep.
Please consider giving and continuing your worship in that way.
Yeah. It's CCO, like it's called Church is Canceled International Organization Operation Ministries Group Tabernacle. If you just had international
of the living word.
Yeah, if you just had Tabernacle International and of the Living Word, automatically Black Church. It doesn't matter. You can plant that church in the whitest neighborhood. All you have to do is add the word Tabernacle International Living Word. Done. But yeah, so I think that, I don't know what else there is to really say at this one, right?
There's not.
I think that, so I had this last question here. So we addressed the seeker sensitive, a bad model. It is a bad model if that's the entirety of what you're doing.
It's an incomplete model.
Yes, incomplete would be the correct way of putting it. Like you need more stuff there, and it's groups and other stuff. You're right. But we can't put aside the fact that, Willow Creek has a 7,000 seat church, and it's effective at getting butts in the seats. Now, I've said this about other churches that I disagree with, that I wouldn't attend, that have the weird flag outside of the front, which every 6 months there's a new version of it, so they have to keep replacing them. I wonder if they have to raise money. Like, I wonder if I go on the church website, like, donate for the new pride flag. The pride cometh before the fall flag. We're going to put a new one up. But if somebody accidentally walked into that church and decided to investigate the gospel further, and they came to meet Jesus, and then the subsequent reality is that they changed their entire family's, everything about their entire family got changed, and the future got changed in that moment because one person, I think it was worth it. It was all, and that is a really, really, really hard pill to swallow, because in the midst of all of that, there's people who are getting hurt. The assistant had to pretend like she didn't like when Bill Hybels touched her. I'm kidding. We don't know. I'm just kidding. I don't know that that's true. But this guy Hybels, at some point you realize these guys have so much money that it's no longer about money. It's about the status. And this happened to a church here in Minnesota. And the whole organization was called Evergreen. Maybe we'll dive into it and look into it. But it was one of those things where, like, the guy just kept denying that he did anything wrong. And I was like, it's probably true he didn't do anything wrong. And then I remember a friend of mine was like, oh, no. I knew that he was a scumbag 20 years ago because someone that I am related to said that he tried to peekaboo down a shirt. And so I was like, oh, so this guy's been a scumbag forever, but he has plenty of money. So it's no longer about money. It's about, I have a poor reputation.
Power. Yeah. It's about status.
And, that's the part to me that's like, I can forgive somebody who's money hungry and uses they go, okay, the fastest way for me to make money is to plant a church. I think that's stupid. That's a stupid thought, but the fastest way for you to make money is to start a course about planting churches and sell it for $997 on Gumroad. But the point is, like, I think there's a person like that out there. I can forgive that. It's a person who goes, no, I need people to think I'm holy. That's the guy who I go, all right, you need something that you need help, right?
Yeah.
So
Hybels needed help.
And instead, he just got a handy from his busty assistant. So, and listen, I'll just say one parting thought here. Stop being attractive. Like, oh
my God.
Don't blame me. You need to stop being good looking. That is not my problem.
Please forgive Big Money Hybels over here, everyone. I think that's it. For that last comment, Big Money Hybels, you are canceled.
Well, thank you. And Brett, I just want to continue our worship in this way and let you know that you're canceled also.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's right.
And thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time on Church is Canceled.
Or maybe we just stop and we quit.